In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to build a slightly more complex polygon model. It'll be constructed out of a single surface, and that's one great advantage of polygons is you can make something complex and have a single surface and have a single node. The model will be a chair, and that will be saved out in the working files directory in the chapter 5 folder so you can take a look at it. Let's get started. So I'm going to start with a polygon primitive. So I'll go up to Create, Polygon Primitives, Cube. There's your basic cube. This cube is going to be the seat, so I'm going to scale it using my hotkey, R for scale it up, and then scale it down in Y to make it skinnier in that direction. I'm also going to go to the top view and scale it so it matches up with the grid lines. This will come in handy later when we have to add some additional divisions. So I'll go back to the perspective view, I'll turn on Smooth Shade All so you can see it, and there's the basic seat. Next thing to do would be to extrude legs out of this bottom. However, the bottom only has a single large face because it was a primitive. So before I can extrude, I need to add additional faces down here. One quick way to add divisions would be to use the Add Divisions tool. So with this face selected, I'll go up to Edit Mesh, Add Divisions. I'm going to check the option box and see what that says. Normally division levels is set to 1. Now I'll give you 4 new faces per selected face. However, it's set to 2 now, which is what I want, and that will give me 16 new faces. So division level set to 2. Go ahead and add divisions, and there's 16 new faces. Now at this point, I could select these corner faces and extrude the legs out of those areas. However, that would make some pretty thick legs. So what I'll do before that is move some vertices around to scale those corner faces. So I'm going to go to the bottom view. Now there is no bottom view per se. What I can do is go to the top view, turn on smooth shading here, then use my camera cube shortcut up here, use my tiny little arrows to click until I get to the bottom. So 2 clicks, I'm on the bottom view. I can tell I'm on the bottom view because I can see my new faces even though smooth shading is on. So now what I can do is select columns and rows and vertices and move them until I scale down my corner faces. So I'm going to go to vertex mode, pick a column of vertices, and then move them close to the edge. Do it for that column, and this column, and the vertical rows here, and here. So what I've done is move those vertices in such a way that the corner faces are now roughly 2 by 2 units. So those are a better size for extruding the legs. So I'm going to go back to the perspective view, go back to face mode, and select those corner faces. And now I can extrude those. So I'll go straight to Edit Mesh, Extrude. And the great thing about extrude is that those faces do not have to be touching. I get a single handle for all 4 of those separate faces. And then I can pull the handle down to extrude the legs. All the legs are the same height because I have a single handle. All right, let's say that that's a good height for the legs. If I'm happy with the length of the legs there, I can just click off the handle and freeze it. All right, so next thing to do would be to create the back. And create the back in a similar fashion as the legs by extruding it. Now, in order to get someplace to extrude from, I'm going to have to add at least one more edge up here. So this time I'm going to use the Cut Faces tool for that. So I'll go back to the top view. Now, top view is hidden because I'm on the bottom now. I can go back to my camera shortcut and then click a couple times until I get back to the top, and there's the top. Now I can apply the Cut Faces tool. Now there's one secret to a lot of these polygon tools, and that is the tools are actually applied to whatever faces you have selected. For instance, if I have just the top face selected of this part of the chair, and I apply the Cut Faces tool, Cut Faces ignores the rest of the model. In other words, Cut Faces won't go all the way through. It only gets applied to whatever face is selected. Now, if you have no faces selected, whatever polygon tool you apply will be applied to the entire model. It's only when you have one or more faces selected that the tool has a more limited response. So in any case, I've selected my very top face here, no other face. Now I can go back to my top view, go to Edit Mesh, and go to Cut Faces tool. Cut Faces tool, click on the edge, and drag my mouse to get that interactive cut line. Try and make the line as parallel as possible to the grid. In other words, I want to make that line straight as possible. and then let go. And there's my new edge. Here's a good place to pull the back of the chair out of. So I can go back to face mode, get out of that tool first, go back to face mode, and extrude that. Now remember, you can scale your extrusion. So if I want to make my back a little bit fancier, what I can do is scale the extrusion using the handle. For instance, I could skinny up the top here by pulling the cyan cube here to skinny that up. Another thing you could do is continue to apply the extrude tool. In other words, while this face is still selected, go back up and pick extrude again. So once you reapply extrude, you get the handle again, and you can pull up a brand new face and a brand new extrusion. So I can go ahead and scale this one again. While the tool, in fact, is still visible and that face is still selected, go back to Edit Mesh, activate the Extrude tool another time. The handle, of course, is still visible. Pull it up and I get a brand new extrusion. So what I've done is applied a total of 3 extrusions. The long extrusion for the main part of the back, the shorter extrusion, and the shorter extrusion, all based on the same face. Once I'm happy with the extrusions, I'm not going to do any more extrusions. I can just click off and freeze those. So there's a very basic chair. Now another thing I could do is select it as an object and move it up to the virtual ground plane. If you imagine the grid as a ground plane, I can go to the side view and move it till the legs sit on that ground line, which is right here. So this is not a particularly complex model, but it shows you can make something that's going off in multiple directions. In other words, if you were going to try and make this with a NURBS set of tools, you'd have to have various four-sided NURBS surfaces, whereas this polygon, which is going off in multiple directions, 4 different directions for the legs, and you have the seat and then a back, you can make it a single surface and a single node. Now, if you like the chair and you feel like you're not going to do any more modeling, what you can do as a final step is select it and delete all its history, because you can see over here under inputs in the channel box, these are all the various tools that were applied. So I can go up to Edit, Delete by Type, History, and get rid of the history. So now there's no more history. And then maybe one last tool I can apply would be the Freeze Transformation. Because remember, I moved it up in the air to get the legs to sit on the ground plane. You can see the translate Y is now 14.6 or so. If I want to make this the start position for this chair, while it's selected, I can go up to Modify, Freeze Transformations, and that zeroes out all the transforms. So there's your chair.